Hey everybody, how are you? Great stuff. So, there's some bands where it's really difficult to be objective about. Sometimes you get into a band and they really just hit a sweet spot in terms of the stuff that you're really into, what really floats your boat. They meld loads of different things that you absolutely love into one thing, and as long as they keep doing that to a reasonable level, you're always going to go a lot easier on them than you would normally on a lot of other things. And really, it's difficult to be objective about AFI for me, as it is a lot of people, because they're one of those cult bands in a lot of ways that really push people's buttons. There's a certain kind of person that really gravitates towards AFI, I would say, and I apparently am one of those kind of people. So when reviewing any kind of AFI album, you've got that aspect. You've got to take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, but at the same time, they are a band with many, many merits. And even if you're being totally objective about that, that's plain to see, unless you're an absolute fool. And I don't think you are an absolute fool, okay? I think you're good looking and above average at sports. So, well done you. Okay, anyway, enough of that little fluffing. So AFI, you've got that aspect of it. The fact that they inspire such rabid fanboy and fangirlishness from people, but at the same time, also there's different types of AFI, and there's an AFI that some people love, and there's an AFI that people don't love as well. And I love all of that as AFI sides, but it's something you've got to take into account, particularly when you're looking at a new AFI released, because as much as a lot of people really want them to, and part of me really wants them to, they're not going to make Black Sails in the Sunset and The Art of Drowning again. That's not happening. If you like that AFI, that raging, amazing, incredible, fast punk band that I'm just getting excited about now, then you're just going to have to take those albums off your shelf and play those, because they're not really kind of going back to that. And in a way that's good, because really they stumbled upon a sound and that particular approach that after The Art of Drowning they couldn't really better. So that's why there was a directional shift on Sing the Sorrow. But at the same time, a lot of those core elements are still prevalent throughout the AFI catalogue post The Art of Drowning, particularly the fast-paced songs on like Sing the Sorrow, and certainly on this album we're going to be talking about in a moment. But certainly over the last few years, AFI albums have proved divisive. I think everybody pretty much was in agreement, or the majority of people were, once they got over the fact that they weren't going to get their million mile an hour hardcore punk band back, that The Art of Drowning is a classic album, and I would personally say pretty much as good as this kind of goth punk thing gets, just as good as albums get, if I'm going to unleash my huge AFI fanboyishness. And then December Underground is where the people started to maybe kind of drop off and question them, because it was a lot more poppy, a lot more synthy. Those 80s new romantic synth pop sort of gothic florid influences really came to the fore there, but there was still plenty of great songs. And I think even the softer gothy songs on there were fantastic. Stuff like Love Like Winter, is contrasted with something brutal like Kill Caustic and Kiss and Control. So brilliant songs on there, and enough of the kind of hard element. And then we get to Crash Love, which pretty much stripped away all of those hard elements and just produced a real kind of jangle pop, Smiths influence, Cure influence, maybe the Cult sort of album, and really focus on that poppy side of AFI, and drew a lot of detractors, in fairness. Now, I think it's a really good album, but, a lot of people fell away at that point, and I think if a lot of people look back on it, it maybe was just a knee-jerk reaction, because it was a sign of a band shedding pretty much all elements of aggression and stuff. But like any other classic band, like any band that really pushes forward and wants to experiment, when they go down these avenues on their own and it's completely different. That doesn't mean they're never going back to the stuff that you like. And sure enough, the next album, Burials, was in a way a return to that dark bleakness, but it kept that synthy approach. Now, I thought Burials, again, was a really, really strong album, but it lacked the hooks in a lot of places. It lacked those massive choruses, and it was much more of a grower. Again, it was a worthwhile direction for them to take, but at the same time, I really do miss those anthemic choruses like Silver and Cold and Total Immortal and stuff like that. So, yeah, so this brings us to their new album, their self-titled album, kind of self-titled, but it's called The Blood Album, if you can see it there. Lovely little cover. So, The Blood Album is really an interesting mix of, I'd probably say, the last 3 or 4 albums. In terms of its closest relative, I would say Sing the Sorrow is very much there, but it has that kind of jangle pop stuff that we've started to hear on Crash Love as well. But there's much more of a raw punk element to this album. And one of the things that is a real welcome return is massive hooks, massive choruses, and just really choppy, punchy songwriting. So this is, in terms of track listing, there's about 14 songs on here. In fact, there's exactly 14 songs on here. And one of the things that they said prior to the release of the album is that they wrote loads and loads of songs, up to 60 songs, and just whittled down the strongest. And one of the most remarkable things on this album is there's no filler. There's no song that's noticeably weaker than another song. It's incredibly consistent, to the point where on first listen I found the whole thing quite overwhelming, because there was just so many hooks and so many quality songs that almost nothing kind of distinguished itself. But this is an album that really rewards repeat listens. And I'm not saying that there's not things to grasp onto instantly, but these much more kind of punchy, hooky, popish, but really hard songs reveal themselves to have many, many extra layers. And that is a really, really hard thing to do. So in terms of kind of songs, I would say probably the weakest song is actually the opening track, Dark Snow. And that the only kind of real flaw I can say about the album is it doesn't open as strongly as a lot of AFI albums do. That's not to say this is a bad song at all. I think it's a really, really strong song, and on any of the last 2 or 3 albums it would be a real standout. It's just that the songs that precede it, the songs that follow it, the next 13 songs are really, really a cut above. And then we're getting straight into Still a Stranger, which just brings those hooks to the fore, and you think, okay, well, if it keeps up like this, we're going to get along just fine. But everybody really is on fire and top form here. There's some incredible bass work by Hunter. Jade Pudgett remains an incredibly inventive guitar player with a really distinctive sound as well. He's one of those players that, even though he's playing in a band that, you know, a lot of people would wrongly tar as, you know, just a punk band, you know, how good are the musicianship going to be? It's just power chords. But he's got a real habit of writing incredibly catchy riffs and melding perfectly this kind of Orange County punk with these gothic, curish moments, these jangly guitar lines. And this is him really on top form, like Black Sails in the Sunset form. Davey Havok throughout the whole thing, just once again, really interesting, arresting lyrics. And, you know, a lot of them have a corny approach, kind of knowingly corny in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of themes that throughout, you know, it's called The Blood Album because he says, you know, I mentioned blood in loads of the songs. And those kind of motifs, although you could say, oh, yeah, you know, he's repeating the same things, that's his style. And sometimes it's nice to actually have something that's kind of connects your work and have a distinctive voice. And if saying blood in December and stuff like that is, and winter, is part of your makeup, then fine, because in terms of a punk band, this guy was pretty much doing it before anybody else. So, I mean, just the whole album's got highlights, but Aurelia is where it really kind of kicks in, and you've got that beautiful meld of synthy kind of hooky keyboards, hooky keyboards, what a crap way of saying it. Having that melding with the powerful driving guitars, Hidden Knives, just pure powerful pop chorus, very December Underground. A real highlight on here is Above the Bridge, which is incredible. It's actually the penultimate track on the vinyl edition, but it arrives around about halfway through the album on the regular version. and it just explodes. It just builds up. It's almost got like a early U2 quality to it, like Unforgettable Fire era U2, but with driving punk rhythms. And just once the synths really build up in a Joy Division sort of way towards the end, you're just absolutely bathing in just walls and walls of gorgeous synth melodies, and it just stealthily builds up and just overwhelms you. Really, really incredible song. So Beneath You, again, really kind of different end of the spectrum. This is just really powerful, aggressive, angry AFI, and it's really good to hear Davey Havok sounding pissed off and just proper on it. Everybody's absolutely on it. You know, the drums are so driving, the riffs are just so powerful. It's nice to hear the AFI just rocking the fuck out again, and it never lets up. And the fact that White Offerings, the single, is what, track number 11? Like, no, track number 12. It arrives like just right at the end of the album, and it's still so consistent and so strong. You're not feeling like I'm really waiting for that single. Then it crops up and just, again, another classic riff. Metallic sort of riff with those minor key gothic embellishments that Jay Pudgett puts on there. And just Davey Havok, again, sounding really feral, pissed off and on fire. And then right at the end, we get the final track, has an almost Danzig-like quality. It's called The Wind That Carries Me Away. And it's a really welcome change of pace and a great, really strong closing track. And it's got that Danzig sort of southern rock, bluesy goth feel to it. And it's something that you haven't really heard AFI do that much before. And it's all the better for it. Just throwing an original curveball at the end. So this album, just really back to front, incredibly strong, really well produced, really slick production without losing the bite and the energy, and just everything that you could want from the modern incarnation of AFI. You know, you're not going to get Art of Drowning again. Get over that. What you've got now is something equally exciting and something that really is the best album they've done since Sing the Sorrow. A really, really strong album I can't stop playing. And if you are into just really passionate, original, uplifting, gothic tinged punk, then you cannot get any better than AFI. These guys are the originals, and this is going to take some topping this year. So yeah, AFI, The Blood Album, check it out, and I'll see you soon. But let me know what you think anyway, because I think it's really bloody good. But am I just mental? Do I just like have a just big boner for AFI, and it's just clouding my vision? Who knows? But yeah, AFI, Blood Album, check it out, and you know, keep it metal or punk. I don't know. Bye.